Well, hello there, YouTube. It's Monday, September 26, 2022. And for those of you that are new to my channel or the first time you're watching this, my name's Tony and I'm rebuilding my 560 SL from the ground up. Taking everything apart and putting it all back together. And one of the things I have to do is I have to deal with the intake or the water pump inlet, and the thermostat. So in this video, I'm kind of going to recondition all this and get all new parts and install the thermostat. And links to everything is in the description as far as the manual goes and to everything that I'm using as far as products and tools. I want to let you guys know that I'm going to be starting this vehicle live on YouTube. That's right. I mean, that's the plan anyway. So subscribe. It's going to be happening pretty soon now, I think, because all the parts are here except for a couple of small things. They should be here within the next week or so. And as soon as everything is here, I'm starting assembly on this car. So that's going to be happening in October, or the engine. It's going to be happening here in October. We're going to be putting it together. I don't know how long it's going to take. Who knows what kind of roadblocks we're going to run into. Well, I think that's about where I want to start. Let's go ahead and get into this video, and I'll catch you on the next one. Alright, so this is that thing that sits on top of the water pump in the front. There's the temperature sensor that I bought for that. This sensor over here, the green one, 3-prong. And I figured, you know, this hose would be hard and bulging and everything, which it is. I bought the hose. I thought I was just buying a little piece of hose, but it ended up being a really big piece of hose. So genuine Mercedes, and so you see you got the tag, but you also have the writing. Right, so when I cut this, I'm going to make sure, you know, that we show off the Mercedes writing. But we have everything to refurbish this on hand. So I'm going to go ahead and complete that. I noticed that this sensor has a aluminum sealing washer kind of a thing. The new one does not. This is the new part number. And there's no sealing ring in here. So this one here was the 19 and the other one was a 22. This also has a washer. Our new one does not. I thought since I've got such a long piece of this, I can make mistakes. So I measured this and found it to be at its largest point is 2 5/16. So that's what I'm going to measure on here is 2 5/16. And this is just some wipeable glass pen. We'll see if this works. That was pretty good. And supposedly this will wash right off. So we'll see. And let's see. I don't know if it's a tool to use or not, but see if it would work. Here's the oh, not too bad. Well, that's genuine Mercedes. We've got it documented right here on video. We're going to need a gasket. Now, I bought a new water pump, which we'll talk about in a second. Instead of cleaning up this water pump, why don't I buy a new pump? I chose to go with this through FCP Euro. It's lifetime as long as I own the car. and this is a fail point, would be these, right? They would leak. They even leaked originally from the manufacturer, from what I understand, looking at the service manual. I see that it leaked even then, and they said, don't worry about it. It's not a reason to replace them. If it's original, you know, it's got 139,000 miles on it. We had these bolts break. Even this one here, I can't get it out probably without banging it out. So this has got a lifetime. So we're going to go with this one. And, you know, it's got your timing mark on there. You know, you want to verify that when you buy them that you're getting what you should get. Our timing mark is where it belongs. All our bolt holes line up. Thicknesses look the same. We can even verify the thicknesses to make sure our bolt lengths and everything are the right size. We don't want to have any problems like that. But I would say it looks like an identical casting, so you know, just by looking at it, even the casting marks are right about in the exact same positions. I haven't taken this off yet. This is an original part. We want to maintain this, but our drain plug's the same. Everything looks good in here. I think we can clean it up. I see some metal burring inside here, so we'll verify that that's good and clean. So I want to just deburr that. Other than that, I'd say that these look identical. I also bought a new thermostat, and that thermostat comes with a ring. That one came out of the top. If we position it that way. Haven't looked at it yet. There's a washer behind each one of these. They appear to be identical. I put WD-40 on all this prior because I knew I was going to be taking it apart. So, alright, so I put that piece of rubber hose on there to kind of help us. And then I have a rubber mallet as well, but I just want to there it is. Alright, so let's take a look. So the proper orientation and everything would be just like this, right? There's an O-ring that I'm stuck to here. There it is. Okay. That's the thermostat. Boy, it's stuck in there. We have a new thermostat, so, and we have a new one of these, so we don't need to worry about taking that out. But there's a rubber gasket right there. Alright, so this is the old pump. I decided, you know, when you look at all these bolts, you know, I mean, some of them are completely shot. So I ordered some new bolts with this part number here. You need 4 of these, and that will take care of 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now the next one is the timing mark, and that's that part number. You need 1. The next one to it, in fact the next 2, is that part number. And then coming up now to that one, which is the longest one, and that's that part number. decided to get all new bolts and all new washers all the way around. These I'll transfer over. They look just fine. So we'll transfer these to the new one. Since this was not a failure, I might even clean it up a little bit and then get some WD-40 in there. It wasn't a failure, you know, it does have the original, you know, Mercedes on it, where the new pump does not. I'm going to keep it as part of the car. Matter of fact, I actually have a box of anything that I'm replacing, I'm keeping. So now I have all the bolts and the washers and the thermostat and the O-ring, and I've cut the hose and cleaned everything up. It's time to kind of start assembling things now. We're going to just install, all I'm going to do right now is install the thermostat, because we got to put this on the engine. The engine's not built yet. Well, I'm going to put on the thermostat, and here's all the torque settings. So, you know, your top bolts on your inlet there, those are at 25 Newton meters. There's 25 Newton meters on the front cover. All the bolts, all 8 of those bolts, and 10 Newton meters for the thermostat housing. So what we're going to need to do all this, of course, is a little torque wrench. And I'm going to use some anti-seize, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But you guys remember that I had a frozen bolt on my water pump attached to the front cover, and we had to drill the block and put it in a time serve. So we want to prevent all that stuff from happening in the future. We're just going to use a little small dab about that. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then some petroleum jelly is what we're going to need for the O-ring on the thermostat. And I think this is a 13 millimeter is what we're going to need. And another one I have set out somewhere here, not quite sure where I've got it. Oh, there it is. Yeah, I already have it on it. So yes, that's a 10 millimeter, and that's what we'll use for that. I've also went ahead and recut this hose because I really wanted to make sure I showed off that logo, right? And I've got all the new sealing rings and all that's all installed, but I can't install this because that has to install to the intake manifold. So I'm not installing this. So for now, I'm just going to set this aside. But what I did want to point out is, you see the bolts? And you notice this, right? This is how I picked up the whole front of the engine. And that's all the threads that go into the water pump. So we're picking up that whole front part of the engine on the water pump. I don't know if I like that. That's something I might want to change in the future. So I'm going to set that part aside because we're not going to be using that. This is all we're going to be using. You can see I have all brand new bolts all the way around. Here's where the thermostat goes, and this thing orientation is like that. Now I deburred that, you know, earlier in the video. You noticed there was some stuff inside of there, so I went ahead and I deburred all that. I checked all the other places on the top side as well. Everything's clean in here, so that's been all done. And I've brake cleaned everything, and so we are ready now to do an installation. Before I do the O-ring, just take a look at the thermostat. This is a check ball. Alright, that's got to be facing up when we install it. But they want you to check to make sure that that ball is free. You can shake it and you can see it, you know. You can see that the ball is free. So that's the first thing you want to check, right? Make sure that thing wiggles, because it could get rusted right there depending on how it was shipped or how it was packaged and all of that. So now that we've verified that, take a look at our pump here. This is the top of the pump. So it sits just like that. And then this thing here sits on this side and faces down. Now, so when I install it, I need to make sure that that is facing up. Just like that. Then we can lubricate. I can lubricate this. Like I said, everything's been brake cleaned. I didn't brake clean this. I just made sure it was clean with some water-based solvent. But you don't really need that much. I'm just using this so things slide together nicely. That's it. It won't interfere or anything. And then you set that in there. Now I have some lint-free towels that I'm using in the shop, in my garage. Lint-free. We're putting stuff together. All right. I'm just going to set that on there. There we go. All right. Now let's put away the petroleum jelly. Get rid of that stuff. Let's talk about this little bit of anise here. I'm using the Permatex, and when this stuff sits in your garage, all the stuff separate. Now, I went ahead and I took popsicle sticks and made sure that was nice and blended. Okay? Just as a tip to let you know, make sure you blend those things up because all the stuff separates. That's why I don't like to buy things in tubes. Right? It separates, you can't do anything about it. So all we really need, I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here. If you remember in my previous videos when I would crack open a bolt, I'd say, boy, it smells weird. Well, I found out this is the smell. So that's what people are using. Now, these are spring washers that are on the front of this. So this one here is kind of stuck on this one here. There we go. And you can see, I just have like a little dab. I'm just going to dab it on the leading edge like that. That's it. You see that? That's all I'm going to put on there. Now, I know some of you guys are going to say, well, that's going to change your torque setting. Okay. All right. I get it. I get it. I get it. But we're talking about a very small amount. The tolerances are, for this, it's very minimal. Very minimal. So just go on the light side then if you're a little bit nervous. You'll have a little bit less friction, obviously. You guys need to be using anti-seize on all your intake bolts. The water pump, all those 8 bolts on the front, every single bit of those need to have just a little dab of this on the front of it. You don't want to overdo it, because that changes everything. You can make hydraulic issues and all, if you fill up the hole. So it's just a little dab, just like I did right here. I mean, that's better than getting a bolt to seize inside there and you're putting it on the leading edge. That's where it's going to start. Okay? So we'll talk about those gaskets in a minute. But right now, that is all I have done, is just a little dab. All right? And I'll put that in there. Just a dab. Right? You can see that that's very minimal. I don't think you need to do any more than that. This anti-seize, get it on your fingers. Just put a little dab on your fingers, and then you see how far it goes. This stuff goes a long way. You don't need hardly anything. Again, just a little dab. Probably looks giant on being close up like that. There, that seat that thing very nicely. I don't know if I can hand do 10 Newton meters. I'm ready to go ahead and see if I can just tighten it. Again, it's 10 Newton meters and it's a 10 millimeter bolt. So let's see, I've got this thing set for 10 Newton meters. I'm surprised. Still a lot more. Let me go ahead and close up this. This is what's going to end up happening. I'm going to end up dumping that. All right, here we go. I'll just keep going until I like to feel it. There it is. And then this final one here. That's it. So there we go. Now let's go back to this little instructions here. So as far as the pump goes, you know, you guys can buy what you want, but recommended European made, whatever. I bought myself a graph from FCP Euro, lifetime warranty, as I mentioned earlier. But here's the deal. Don't use the gaskets that are provided with the water pump. All right, buy yourself some genuine Mercedes-Benz gaskets. This is a recommendation. And you can put a tiny, tiny bead around not only this part, you know, the gasket. So you can put a tiny bead of RTV to each side of this paper gasket. Okay, just a tiny bead on the outside edge. Try to stay towards the outside edge, not in the inside edge, all right? I mean, you will have to go on the inside around these little things, but other than that, you're trying to, you don't want to contaminate it, right, with RTV. That's all I'm saying. All right, you can do the same thing with the top for the inlet. You can do the same thing with the top. What I want to mention too is you're not going to put that top housing on if you've removed your water pump, okay? You got to actually put your hose on to the intake manifold first. That's kind of what you have to do. Is you would put that on first, so that way there you can bring this up to it and get your pump installed, and then slide that all on there. You guys will see when I actually install it, but for now, this thing is ready. I'm going to go ahead and put it in a bag, make sure we keep it contaminate free. I'm going to put my gaskets along with it, as well as the top housing. All right, you guys, until the next one, thanks for watching.